I had the most horrifying trip to Tennessee. Monday, April 6th, 2015. It started out as an adventurous trip to hike and chill in Gatlinburg, just about 4 hours from Nashville and in the middle of the Smoky Mountains. Perfect for me, who loved the outdoors and sleeping in a cabin near the woods for 5 days. It turned for the worse starting the first day. It is difficult for me to survive a period of time with my 3 other siblings, so the 9-hour drive from Chicago was torture. My brother and I, of course, had to take the back, while my 2 sisters got the front bucket seats, leaving me, a 6'2" tall individual, cramped the whole way there. We left at about 8 a.m., so we arrived in Gatlinburg at about 5 p.m., 6 p.m. in Tennessee with the time change. The roads to the sign grew increasingly difficult to drive around, and with the sun setting and the rain starting, the twists and turns became all too much. I started feeling sick and claustrophobic in the car. Then something happened that made my stomach do flips and my heart stopped. I first dismissed the shape of a lady in a gown as my 9-hour drive affecting me, and as we turned, I ignored the feeling I started to get from these woods. I saw her again, a ghostly shape in between some trees. I just needed to get out of the car and get settled into our cabin. Again and again, I kept noticing a figure of a woman in my peripheral view, like a nagging at my sanity in the car. After a 30-minute hellish drive up, down, and around a mountain, we arrived at the cabin. Bluebirds on the mountains, an 8-bedroom cabin with one side facing the valley of the mountain and the other facing the deep woods. Great, I thought. A scary setting for these days away from society. Of course, something had to go wrong. Our code didn't work to get into the cabin. After 15 minutes on hold with customer service, we finally got the right code and entered the house. Damn, this place was outdated. It was super nice and spacious, just TV and VCR tapes everywhere in the rooms. I put my computer in on the table and helped unload the car and get ready for dinner. Then she came again, the woman. I was about to unpack the chicken and wash my hands when I saw her, just 15 yards into the forest, and even having the road separate us, her image still put me off. I really needed this vacation, I thought, and turned on the water. Actually, the lack thereof. The well was empty, and we had no water in this damn cabin. My mom was furious with the people, so after waiting an hour and a quick yoga session, I was informed by her that we needed to eat quickly and pack up again to move to another cabin. Great. Another 30 minutes in the car to the cabin. After we loaded up the car, I was actually excited to leave the first cabin, for I kept seeing her in the corner of my eye. Never moving, just watching the distance past me, never at me. We drove away and got to the second cabin at about 11 p.m. After unpacking a second time, I was looking forward to staying here until Saturday morning. Then, fucking hell, her face. We just picked rooms and were showered when I saw her for the 4th time in the night, just past the cabin next to us. How in the hell did she know where we were going? I just needed to sleep, and this would all go away. I had the bottom left bedroom in the basement, with windows in front and to the left of me, the bathroom behind, and the door to the left. I put my clothes in my drawers and hit the hay. It's about 2 in the morning and I am shitting myself. I closed my curtains and I closed the blinds to the window. A form. A fucking form is outside my curtains on the porch outside. Not pacing, not moving, just standing there and staring in my direction. Its head was tilted at an angle, like it was pondering something. I was so terrified and filled with anxiety that it would go in my room. I kept checking on it up until 3 a.m. when my mom went to my room to check on me, and she saw me wide awake. I told her about the form on the porch outside, but when she checked, she didn't see anything. It looked like it vanished into thin air, and I was relieved. After that, our trip went smoothly, and I never saw the form of a lady wearing a gown again. But I swear on what I saw that night, and it was not human.
It was my final year before retiring from the Army, and life wasn't easy. My divorce was in full swing, and my soon-to-be ex-wife had moved back to Texas with our 2 daughters. I planned to join them once my retirement was finalized, but in the meantime, I rented a small 2-bedroom house in Indian Mound, Tennessee. Indian Mound was a quiet, isolated place, which was a huge change from the suburbs. No neighbors were around, just miles of conservation land across the street and a swamp wrapping around the back of the property. The peace and quiet suited me at first, but things took a strange turn not long after I moved in. One night after coming back from a concert in Nashville around 1 in the morning, I pulled into the driveway and noticed a huge black dog in my front yard. It looked like a lab standing perfectly still with its head and tail held high, staring at me. I wasn't sure what to do, so I slowly approached in my car. Without a sound, the dog turned and disappeared into the swamp. I brushed it off as just another stray, but that wasn't the last time something strange happened. Over the next few months, I started waking up around 3 in the morning, convinced I heard voices outside my window. Sometimes it sounded like whispering, other times footsteps, but whenever I checked, there was nothing there. I told myself it was just deer, or maybe that dog again, but the noises never stopped. One night I woke up just before 3 to a bright white light shining through my porch doors. It was so intense it lit up the entire kitchen. I ran to the window and saw what looked like a high-powered spotlight coming from the swamp. I grabbed my phone, ran outside, and yelled that I was calling the cops. As soon as I did, the light vanished, and I heard footsteps retreating into the swamp. The cops came out and took a report, but found nothing. I became extra cautious after that, locking all the doors and checking the shades every night. The noises continued, but now I'd sometimes hear a dog panting outside my window, though I never found any tracks in the morning. A few months later, just as I was nearing the end of my lease, I had the scariest experience yet. I woke up in the middle of the night to a woman's voice calling my name. At first, I thought it was just a dream, but then I heard it again, clear as day. I shot out of bed and checked the house, but found nothing. Just as I was about to relax, someone started pounding on my front door. It sounded like they were trying to break it down. I grabbed my gun and yelled that I was armed and had called the cops. The pounding stopped instantly. When the police arrived, they found no damage to the door, no footprints, nothing. After that night, everything stopped. I finished my lease in peace and moved back to Texas, glad to leave Indian Mound behind. Whatever was out there, I was happy to never find out.
I often forget about this experience, as I only have vague memories of my childhood. But when I do remember, it still scrambles my brain and gives me chills. I've only told a few people, and have had a hard time believing it myself, until recently that I've been reading accounts online and talking to people about their experiences. I'm convinced that I am not misremembering, and that this did in fact happen and is still unexplainable. Here goes. When I was 7 or 8 years old, I had a best friend, W. We spent all of our free time playing together at her home, a big old farmhouse out in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee. There was a small room upstairs that held all of our Schleich animal toys. We would spend hours and hours battling against each other with our armies and creating stories that would be played out for weeks on end. This room was mostly just storage for boxes and spare furniture. There was a small wooden chair in the corner of the room that had been there for years. As long as we had played in that room, that chair was there in the corner. One day, W and I were playing in the room. W was sitting in front of the wooden chair with her back to it, and I was sitting in front of her where I could see the chair over her shoulder. We're both immersed in our game when I look up and see a little boy with large, thick square glasses and dressed in a very dapper, vintage outfit. He was just sitting in the chair, looking at us. For some reason, I was not scared at all. I simply asked, W, who is that boy in the chair behind you? W, of course, thought I was trying to prank her and told me to stop. I asked her again, who is that? W finally turns around and sees the little boy. She immediately panics and jumps up, causing me to panic as well, and we both bolted out of the room and went downstairs. We were so young that we couldn't even comprehend what had just happened. We just accepted it and moved on. However, we never went back to that room. From then on, we couldn't even walk by the room without an immense feeling of dread. Neither of us would go inside, and we never played with our Schleich animals again because we were too scared to retrieve them from the room. Nobody believed us when we told the adults about the little boy, and I think this caused W and I to grow up believing that our minds created this experience due to overactive imagination. We had to convince ourselves that it was just a trick of the mind, in order to sleep at night. I have never experienced anything else that was this corporeal. W and I both still vividly remember the image of the boy in the chair. I remember his glasses, his blonde hair, his outfit, and even the color of the wall behind him. I know we both saw the same thing, and I know it was real. I have no explanation, except that this little ghost boy probably just wanted to play with us.
I hope you found these stories as chilling and unsettling as I did. It's a stark reminder that sometimes reality can be stranger and more frightening than fiction. If you enjoyed these tales of suspense, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more spine-chilling content. This is your host, Nicholas Black. Until next time.